In Turkey, Russian and Ukrainian delegations discussed terms of a ceasefire and a possible meeting between Presidents Putin and Zelensky. Palestinian Israeli occupation forces have killed at least 52 people in different attacks on 8 distribution centers in Gaza. And in Mexico, citizens voted on Sunday for the judicial authorities in an election day described by President Claudia Sheinbaum as historic. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Turkey, the Russian and Ukrainian delegations met again in Istanbul for the second round of direct peace talks. Our correspondent Yunus Soner has all the details.
Good afternoon from Istanbul, Turkey, from the front of the Çırağan Palace right behind me, where the delegations of Ukraine and Russia have gathered today in their second meeting after May 16. The Russian delegation was led by Vladimir Medinsky, an advisor to the Russian President Vladimir Putin, while the Ukrainian delegation was chaired by Rustem Umerov, the country's Minister of Defense. The meeting was moderated by Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, who had traveled to Moscow the beginning of last week to meet the Russian President and Foreign Minister, and later on Thursday and Friday, to Kiev, capital of Ukraine, to coordinate this meeting. In his opening remarks, Fidan thanked both sides for their constructive approach and also to the US President Donald Trump for having opened a window of opportunity. Fidan said that this meeting would above all deal with humanitarian issues, further exchanges of prisoners of war, and both sides' conditions for a ceasefire. The meeting started with a delay of 2 hours after the Ukrainian delegation met once again first with Hakan Fidan, and here it is worth reminding that they also yesterday here in Istanbul had met the representatives of the United Kingdom, Italy and Germany to coordinate their positions. In today's meeting, which lasted 1 hour and 10 minutes, both sides exchanged a draft document with each side's conditions for a ceasefire. Following the end of the meeting, a spokesperson of the Turkish Foreign Ministry said that the meeting was not negative and that now both delegations are expected to leave towards their capital cities and inform their administrations about each other side's proposals and demands.
For its part, the chief of the Russian negotiator highlighted the immediate proposals Russia has brought to the table.
We have proposed a specific ceasefire for 2 to 3 days in certain areas of the front line. This will now be worked out by our military specialists and with the Ukrainians. We are unilaterally transferring to the Ukrainian side 6,000 frozen bodies of deceased Ukrainian soldiers and officers.
And while leading the talks, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan stressed the importance of these steps towards a lasting ceasefire.
The parties took very important steps to implement the decisions made in the first meeting. The exchange of 1,000 prisoners on each side was completed in a short time. Both sides determined their positions regarding the ceasefire and subsequent steps as promised. As agreed, they came together today to reciprocally address these positions and demonstrated their will to discuss them.
Bugünkü toplantımızda iki ülkenin ateşkese dair koşullarını ve perspektiflerini değerlendirmeye devam etmeyi hedefliyoruz.
In today's meeting, we aim to continue evaluating the conditions and perspectives of the ceasefire between the two countries. At the same time, we aim to take the process of exchanging war prisoners a step further with humanitarian considerations. We also plan to address the necessary preparations for the leaders' meeting. Regular meetings are considered valuable for establishing trust between the parties.
In other topics, Poland's National Electoral Commission said Monday that conservative Karol Nawrocki won the runoff election with 50.89% against his rival, the liberal Rafał Trzaskowski, with 49.11%. The result of the election, which saw a turnout of 71.63%, the highest in such an election in the country, has profound implications for the Polish political landscape, as a victory for Krakowski would have made it easier for the government to implement its reformist agenda. Noworodki's victory, on the other hand, is seen as the continuity at the head of the presidency of Duda, who has not hesitated to veto several of Tusk's initiatives. And South Korea will elect a new president on June 3rd to succeed conservative Yoon Suk-yeol, who was ousted over his brief but shocking imposition of martial law. Surveys suggest that liberal Lee Jae-myung, running for the Democratic Party, is heavily favored to win Tuesday's snap election, riding on a wave of public disappointment of Yoon's martial law debacle in December. The main conservative candidate, Kim Moon-soo, wants a comeback victory, but observers say his refusal to directly criticize Yoon made it difficult for him to narrow the gap with Lee. The winner will be sworn in as president Wednesday without the typical 2-month transition period. Voting officially began on Thursday, which was the first day of a 2-day early voting period in which more than 10 million people have already voted. And local authorities in the autonomous region of Xishan in southeastern China have reported 3 fatalities due to a landslide. The accident occurred on Sunday during the excavation of a mushroom known as soft gold in Muta village, Kamdo City, leaving 7 people missing and 2 injured. Almost 500 people, including rescuers, firefighters and search dogs, are involved in the search operation, which is supported by excavators and telecommunications equipment. The Water and Natural Resources Department has indicated that the landslide displaced approximately 200,000 cubic meters of mud and rocks and has warned of the possibility of secondary landslides. And the Italian island of Sicily remains on alert following a new eruption of Mount Etna, Europe's most active volcano. The eruption has been characterized by intense explosions and lava flows. According to a report from the National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology, part of the volcanic crater has collapsed and the resulting clouds are reaching a height of about 5 kilometers. The Volcano Observatory's aviation warning system has issued a red alert, the highest level, although the neighboring city of Catania's Vincenzo Bellini International Airport remains operational for the time being. The tremor's amplitude values are currently high and increasing, though they are confined to the volcano's summit, specifically the southeast crater area at an altitude of around 1,900 meters, far from populated areas. And now we have a short break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine, Israeli occupation forces have killed at least 32 people in different attacks on 8 distribution centers run by the U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. In 3 separate attacks that took place between May 27th and June 2nd, Israeli occupation forces targeted crowds of Palestinians, prompting outrage from the United Nations and international humanitarian groups. The Palestinian Health Ministry said that the Israeli army is using these distribution centers to carry out mass killings and to displace Gaza residents. For its part, the humanitarian organization Doctors Without Borders said that patients reported being shot at from all sides by drones, helicopters, boats, tanks, and Israeli soldiers.
My nephew went to buy his children food. He went to buy flour for his children. The Israeli army hit him and killed him. They just wanted to eat. They were starving and just wanted some bread. He went to get them bread and took a risk, and they killed him. They tell us there is aid and tell us to go and take the aid. So why do they kill them? Why? Shame on them. Find a solution. Put an end to this.
Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries denounced Israel's veto of ministerial delegation to enter the West Bank as evidence of its disregard for peace. Saudi Arabian Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan said that the Israeli cabinet's refusal to allow a delegation of Arab ministers to enter the occupied West Bank demonstrates its extremism. Saudi leader made this statement during a joint press conference in Amman, Jordanian capital, with his counterparts from Jordan, Egypt and Bahrain. The delegation of Arab ministers was scheduled to meet with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah, West Bank, to express diplomatic support for the Palestinian people in the face of the brutal Israeli aggression in the Gaza Strip.
Israel's refusal to allow this committee to visit the West Bank is a manifestation and confirmation, as you mentioned, of its extremism and its rejection of any serious attempts of a diplomatic path to peace. It is clear that they only want violence, and this strengthens our resolve to redouble our diplomatic efforts in the international community to confront this approach.
In Serbia, thousands protested on Sunday, marking 7 months of the collapse at a train station that killed 16 people and sparked a wave of anti-corruption demonstrations. The students-led gatherings were held in more than 30 Serbian cities and towns, keeping up the pressure on President Aleksandar Vučić to call a snap parliamentary election. Many people in Serbia believe that the deadly November 1st canopy collapse in Novi Sad was a result of flood renovation work on the station building. The protests included commemoration ceremonies for the victims and student marches and blockades. In Belgrade, crowds halted traffic at 2 key bridges over the Sava River, while protesters in Novi Sad came to the central railway station where the tragedy happened.
When I see tens of thousands of people fighting for the same goal, it keeps me going. The goal is a rule of law and life in a decent country. This is the only way. We have to come out no matter how long it takes. It is certainly a non-violent path. Non-violence is good. We hope that students will change something. We have to. We will wait.
Sudan's recently appointed Prime Minister Kamal Taib Idris has announced the dissolution of the transitional government and has appointed Secretaries General and Undersecretaries of the ministries to perform government functions. Taib Idris announced the dissolution of the government in a statement to the press. He did not indicate when the new government, the first since the outbreak of war between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary rapid support forces in April 23, would be formed. The Sudanese government, which is controlled by al-Burhan's military junta, has insisted that it is working on a transitional phase to hold democratic elections, draft a new constitution, and establish a civilian government that will take control of the country without interference from the army. We have a second short break coming up. Remember, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent event. Final break, and I'll be right back with more. Welcome back. The Mexican National Electoral Institute reported that the estimated turnout in the election of judicial authorities was around 13%. The President and Counsel of the National Electoral Body, Guadalupe Tadei, announced on Sunday night that the estimated voter participation was calculated between 12.57 to 13.32%. She emphasized that this number was obtained from a random sample of 1,644 polling stations throughout the country. In this way, Tadei pointed out that the results of the district votes would be issued in the following days. These elections constituted an unprecedented event as citizens were summoned to the polls to elect 881 judicial positions at the federal level.
Based on a sample of randomly selected sectional polling places in front of notary publics, the results obtained by the specialists yielded an estimated citizen participation result of between 12.57 and 13.32% turnout.
In a message to the nation, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum described the day on which citizens were able to elect their judicial authorities for the first time as historic.
This historic election of the judiciary branch on June 1, 2025 was a success.
Cerca de 13 millones de mexicanas y mexicanos.
For the first time in history, nearly 13 million Mexicans came out to assert their right to decide who should be the new ministers, magistrates, and judges.
Likewise, Sheinbaum highlighted transparency of the electoral process, which is said to democratize the judicial system.
Today, the election process was transparent. Candidates were selected by professional commissions from the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. The campaigns were simple, and voting was free. With the new judicial system, the jurista wish will become a reality. Nothing outside the law, no one above the law.
In Argentina, artists who carried out symbolic embrace to the National Theatre Institute against the adjustment policy of the government of Javier Milei were repressed by police. Theatre personnel gathered in front of the door of the National Theatre Institute, where the police brigade executed the riot protocol designed by the Security Ministry directed by Patricia Bullrich to repress. This incident underlines the growing tension in the cultural sphere in the face of government policies and the response of the security forces to demonstrations in the city. Milei's government decreed on May 23rd the closure and dissolution of cultural and historical institutions as part of its policy of budget cuts and restructuring of the state.
We are here in front of the Theatre Institute, rejecting the decrees of the national government of Cefeli and all his policy of dismantling culture. Here are actors from all over the city, renowned and nationally recognized, to reject these cuts from the government. The police are here, who come once again to repress. What did we say? That we are not going to be silent. The theater, the culture, the popular libraries are not silent, and we call to unite the struggles. Together with the Garahan, together with the workers of the Science Institute, together with the workers of Tierra del Fuego, of Catamarca, of the whole country, to stop this government's hand. On Wednesday, together with the retirees, we will all go to the Congress.
And in Colombia, after 43 years of impunity, relatives of victims of forced disappearance by members of the state, even known as the Collective 82, see a possibility of justice after the arrest warrant for 14 former policemen. Our colleague Hernan Tobar with the details.
Rosalba keeps a snapshot of her brother's treasures that are now indelible memories. Gustavo was arrested and disappeared in 1982. He was a student of systems engineering at the National University of Colombia and was 23 years old. The situation left a deep void in the family, but also uncertainty and incessant anguish. His memory endures in Rosalba's memories.
He was an excellent son, an excellent brother. He was always looking out for us so that nothing would happen to us, so that if we needed anything. I also know that he did social work because he had a group with the Claretians that they did social work. The group was called Quingueyanta. When Gustavo disappeared, it ended.
The case of Gustavo is added to that of 13 young people forcibly disappeared, arbitrarily detained and tortured, all students who were falsely linked to a kidnapping. Later it was known that they had no connection with the event. After this episode, the whereabouts of all these people were not known again, and their families are still waiting for an answer. Now they see a lot of hope and progress in terms of justice after the resolution of indictment and arrest warrant against 14 former police officers who were related to the disappearance in the Colombian capital, an event known as the Collective 82.
They should tell us where they are, where they left them, what they did with them. Because the truth is that we have been like this. It is something that we can never mourn, because if they have not given them to us, then we will always be waiting for them to appear, and we can mourn them, and we can make the mourning and guarantees of no repetition. That is why I do ask for them to be punished. Because if they had been punished from the beginning, we would not count so many disappearances that have occurred here in Colombia.
After 43 years of tireless struggle of relatives and defenders against impunity, they are waiting for the determination of the Specialized Prosecutor's Office against the violation of human rights to clarify the truth about what happened and to establish effective search mechanisms to find the young people and punish those responsible for the crime.
In a case that for many years was in the military criminal justice system and went through several prosecutors until last year it was delegated to a specialized prosecutor of the Directorate Against Human Rights Violations, who studied the file and the request presented by the victims until issuing an important decision for finding the necessary elements of criminal responsibility.
Los abogados de las víctimas elevaron este caso ante la CIDH.
The victims' lawyers took the case to the International Commission of Human Rights in 1992, who pointed out that the state had failed to comply with its obligation to respect the life and liberty of the young people. And in 2022, the case was declared a crime against humanity, which prevented the investigation from being closed.
Hernán Darío Tobar Gaitán, teleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
In Ecuador, an oil spill contaminated part of a branch of the salty estuary near the coastal city of Guayaquil, putting authorities and the Ministry of Environment, Water and Ecological Transition on alert. According to the Minister of the Environment, Maria Luisa Cruz, after learning of the oil spill in a branch of the mangrove swamp El Salado Wildlife Production Reserve, the affected area was immediately checked by means of a flyover and a river tour. The hazardous materials units of the city's firefighters was immediately activated, and they began to search the area with a rubber boat to determine the origin of the spill. Absorbent barriers were placed along the branch to prevent further damage to the fauna and flora of the natural reserve. That is, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.